Be rescoped in the budget.
At this time, we'd like to reconvene the meeting of the Oakland City Council with a quick and brief roll call. Vice Mayor Brooks, Councilmember Bruner, Steve, Coachman de la Fuente, I'm sorry. Kaplan is excused. Kernigan, Nadell, here, Shad, and President Reed. And again, showing Councilmember Bruner and changes for the record that it's form of the council. Mr. President, we can continue with the non-consent portion of the agenda. We'd just like to note very quickly, of course, that item 9.1 was pulled from this evening's agenda and will return March 20th. The next item before you proceeds with item 10, but of course we are taking some items out of order. The next item before you will be item S11. Item S11 is the resolution to endorse and support the approval of the Alameda County Transportation Expenditure.
Yes,
it is the Alameda County Transportation Plan. My apologies, and there are speakers.
Yes, good evening, Bruce Williams with Infrastructure Plans and Programming. Staff is here to recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution to endorse and support approval of the Alameda County Transportation Expenditure Plan. To remind you, the half-cent sales tax funds many restoration improvements in the City of Oakland, including local streets and roads, bike and ped programs, and air transit. And we have here Art Dow and Tess Langell from ACTC, who, if you would like, can make a short presentation of that plan.
Art, would you give us a short presentation, please? And Art, I know who you are. Can you please state your name for the record? And Tess, welcome.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Council President and member of the City Council. My name is Art Dow. I'm the Executive Director of the Alameda County Transportation Commission. I'm here, of course, tonight to support your staff recommendation for the approval of the 2012 Transportation Expenditure Plan that will address critical transportation needs across this county over the next 3 decades. This Transportation Expenditure Plan was crafted through an open and transparent process over the last 2 years. The commissioners, my 22-member commission, have worked very, very hard, and they have approved it just this past month. I'd want to take this opportunity to thank you, Council President Larry Reed and Council Member Rebecca Kaplan, I know that she's not here, for your leadership and hundreds of hours of meetings to get the TEP to where it is today, worthy before you for your approval. So at this point, I'd like to turn the presentation over to the Deputy Director of Policy and Legislation, Tess Langell, to walk you through very briefly some key elements of the expenditure plan.
Thank you, Art. Thank you, Tess. And let me just say this before Tess starts. I mean, this county should truly feel blessed that we have some of the best and the brightest transportation experts that are part of the Alameda County Transportation Commission. I just want to thank you for all the hard work that you put into getting us as a body to where we are now, where you're taking us to all the cities to get the council's support. So thank you. You guys do incredible work, and I'm always impressed with your presentations that you give to the board.
Good. Well, thank you very much, and it's a great pleasure to work with the City of Oakland, and we've had a long process in working with the City of Oakland and developing this transportation expenditure plan. I will be very brief in the overview of it, but just want to say that we recognize what a significant role Oakland plays in regional transportation, and this transportation expenditure plan reflects that those regional elements of transportation and has funding to support them. We are in an era of uncertain and volatile funding, and when we're trying to meet a sustainable community strategy, trying to develop our communities, we have a funding volatility, such as you can see up here, that makes it very difficult to plan and implement long-term transportation solutions. The Transportation Expenditure Plan offers an opportunity for us to have long-term, solid, stable funding mechanisms. It's grounded in a vision that was adopted by our commission for a multimodal and connected transportation system that addresses current needs and fixes the current system that we have, as well as plans and builds for the future transportation needs as our communities continue to grow and age and expand. The development of the expenditure plan was over a 2-year process. We had almost 100 people sitting down at the table on a monthly basis to develop the plan. We did outreach, over 40 public meetings, and polling. And we believe that this is a very responsible and accountable transportation expenditure plan that we bring before you tonight, and has extensive safeguards to meet the 2/3 voter requirement that is required to pass this type of measure in the county. It's a $7.7 billion transportation plan over an initial 30-year period for an augmentation and extension of the current sales tax measure. We had to get special legislation to be able to bring this measure before voters this November, and the state legislature and the governor's signature on that legislation allowed us to come to voters one time, and that's on November 6, 2012. There are significant accountability measures, and every 20 years voters will check in and approve a new expenditure plan. In the first year of the expenditure plan, you can see by this chart that it essentially doubles the amount of funding that flows into each area of the city and each mode of transportation. For Oakland, there are significant investments in the money that is directly passed through to you, the funding for local streets and roads, paratransit for seniors and people with disabilities, and bicycle and pedestrian safety. This plan would bring in about $1 billion to the city of Oakland, and you would be making those decisions on your local needs. You can apply your local hiring to implement your local solutions for your transportation needs in the city. There are significant projects throughout northern Alameda County and that are within the city of Oakland that the city would benefit from. I'll just mention a few. These include BART modernization, bus rapid transit investments, transit-oriented development investments, trails in the county, and specific highway investments to improve outdated interchanges, upgrade them, and to close major gaps in elements such as high occupancy vehicle lanes. There's also significant funding for the major commute route corridors, many of which you have here in the city of Oakland, and which carry the second largest amount of vehicles and transit, second to the highways. There are also significant investments in freight. Freight is something that's very familiar to the city of Oakland, and you have extensive freight moving through your city, and there are investments to support freight. This plan is a plan that really focuses in on fixing what we have, addressing the sustainable community strategy that's a requirement by state legislation, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. We have unprecedented transit investments. AC Transit, for example, will receive a doubling of the funding that they have now, which will enable them to restore services and provide services into the future. Their critical road, highway, and freight investments, and all of the allocations will be done in the county on a geographic allocation basis. The next few slides just simply show the different categories of funding, from local streets and roads, to public transit, to highway efficiencies, and bicycle and pedestrian investments. I'd like to take a note at this moment just to briefly say that the amount of funding for bicycle and pedestrian investments in this county, in this plan, is about equal to the highway investments. And that's a recognition of the fact that we have built out our highway systems, and we really need to put efficiencies in those systems. Sustainability, land use, and technology is to help us move forward and advance the sustainable community strategies, building our communities, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. We support staff's recommendation to you to approve the Alameda County Transportation Expenditure Plan. It's a $7.7 billion plan that offers an extraordinary opportunity for funding in your city and in the county where we do not see where we will be finding that funding or that level of funding from any other source. The TEP is a catalyst for change in terms of its investments and how it can affect our communities, and it is a known anchor for drawing in additional funds. In our current measure, we have had a 4-fold level of leveraging for the investments that have been put forward. This is a solid, balanced, and forward-looking plan, and if approved in November 6, 2012, will immediately offer the opportunity for jobs, expanded mobility, and investments in each of our communities. So with that, staff recommends the approval of your staff recommendation.
Thank you, Tess. And let me just say to our staff how much I personally appreciate all your help and bid and your leadership and working with Councilmember Kaplan, who is not here. Rebecca spent an enormous amount of time in helping to shape this proposal to get it to us and ultimately get the Alameda County Transportation Commission approval. So to city staff, thank you. I appreciate you and the residents of the city. Certainly appreciate the hard work and the time and energy that you put into this effort. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Councilmember, if you want to call the public speaker again, Councilmember Brown, thank you.
Once your name is called, please approach the podium in any order. General Shepherd, Vanessa Bridges, Steve Lowe, and Jim Dexter.
Hello, City Council. My name is General Shepherd. I'm an Oakland resident. I'm a homeowner here, and I've been here over 40 years. I support the Alameda County plan, and this plan will bring jobs to the city of Oakland, and those of us who live in the city of Oakland will have opportunity to work here. Because we live here, we're not going in place, and the money that we earn, we can support the city of Oakland. So we are asking that you approve this. And when you do this, many people who are out of work will be able to work. They live here, they bring their money here. Thank you very much.
Good evening, my name is Vanessa Bridges. I'm with Local 713 Carpenters. I am in support of the TEP's plan in regards to, I am a person who has rode the BART and the bus, and I am also looking forward for this because this will bring up revenues for jobs within our community, and it will be beneficial to kind of suppress the congestion with the traffic and things of that nature. So me being an Oakland resident, I am in support of the board with the TEP plan.
Let me just thank the trade unions, because you were at every single meeting advocating your support, and we look for you to help us to get out there and to knock on doors and to make sure that we get this initiative passed. I just want to say thank you.
Thank
you guys have been there.
Thank you.
Jim Dexter, District 4. City Clerk, am I going to speak for the full time?
And Mr. Dexter, what I did do is I counted that you had a total of 4 cards, not 5. So we give you 8 minutes if you wanted to do it this time.
That's fine, if the President will.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Jim Dexter at District 4. Regarding the transportation plan, one of the items is the BRT on Telegraph. I find, after reading the EIR for BRT, that the proposal for BRT on Telegraph is deeply flawed, and I urge this council, while you may approve this plan from the Alameda County, that when the issue comes before you for approval, that you vote against the BRT on Telegraph. There is no provision, none, for emergency vehicles running on Telegraph. The emergency vehicles would end up simply not being able to maneuver the situation. I'd like to move on to another issue that I have come before the City Council and the Public Safety Committee to discuss, and that is the lack of data that is available to the public, and I believe the lack of data to you as the City Council on crimes in the City of Oakland. I've been doing some investigations and finding certain things that I would like to inform you of. First is that when citizen crime reports are made electronically, and that is the majority of how crimes are now being reported in the City of Oakland, those go into a queue. They do not go into the database. They go into a queue that is in investigations, theft investigations. There's only 5 people in theft investigations in the city of Oakland. And those 5 people are responsible for reviewing each and every citizen crime report and to determine those that are frivolous and to make sure that they are categorized correctly. This is an appropriate bureaucratic effort, but the backlog is huge. And so crime reports are not getting into the database in a timely manner through this queue. When items are passed through this queue, they don't go into the database. They go into a second queue. And that queue is in the records department at OPD. And citizen crime reports then sit in that queue for an undetermined amount of time until they are distributed to the various departments within OPD for initial resolution or analysis. While I don't have data, it has not been forthcoming from OPD, we have evidence that these CCRs will last up to a month and a half before getting through the queue. And that is unacceptable. There's no way for you, or me, or anyone else in the city of Oakland, including the police, to know what's going on in the city of Oakland when the majority of crime reports aren't making it into the database for up to 2 months. That's only part of the problem. The problem then extends behind the OPD database. Once data is in the database, that data has to be extracted from the database and put into 2 places. One is the IT department in the city of Oakland for distribution within the city of Oakland's crime reporting tool, which is called crimestoppers.org. And to go to public vendors like crimespotting.com that are taking the OPD database on the outside, on the back end, and distributing it to the public. In both cases, both internal to the city of Oakland and external to vendors, OPD takes absolutely no responsibility for the data quality. And that's terribly important, because while OPD, in its OPD database, may have data, they are not guaranteeing that database going beyond their database outside, even to the internal Oakland IT. That means that the algorithms associated with both the vendors and the internal IT can distort or actually eliminate crime data, giving a false impression as to what is happening in the city of Oakland in crime. And this is something that is documented. There are reports I have made that have never appeared in any form, in a public forum. Whether it's the IT department, whether it's the various vendors. You can't get to the data I put in. And it's been months. The second issue is that this city council and the Public Safety Committee and the city administrator all have a responsibility to utilize the advisory and oversight issues associated with the Community Policing Advisory Board and the Measure Y Oversight Committee. And these 2 organizations aren't involved in your legislative process. They don't get public safety issues brought to them by the police department, by the city council members, or by the mayor. Things just float right on by and go directly into the Public Safety Committee or directly to the City Council, or are implemented by the mayor directly. And one of those items that has been implemented directly by the mayor is to take off 22 PSOs without permission if this board, if this city council would even give permission, and assign them to the 100-block program. This is, under my understanding of Measure Y, absolutely illegal. It is not what Measure Y was intended to do. It is not what Measure Y is supposed to do. It is not what was promised by this group of people to the voters for what they were voting for when they voted. The tax should not be collected based on this item alone. The mayor and the chief of police have just arbitrarily taken resources from Measure Y and assigned them to the 100 block. And there is additional evidence that many of these officers are charging Measure Y for the activities they do on the 100 block initiative. All of this is very, very difficult to handle. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
The last speaker was Mr. Steve Lowe.
Mr. Lowe, are you in the chambers? You next.
Sorry, I don't know if I signed up for the policy.
Oh,
And we can move your card there if that's what you wish.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, that was it.
Yes.
Councilmember Berman, you sorry.
Thank you, sorry. I just have some questions about the tax. What is the sales tax today in the county? In Oakland, what is the sales tax today?
The current sales tax today is 8.75.
8.75.
Right.
This initiative to continue the half sales tax and add another half sales tax would make the sales tax in Oakland how much?
Would be 9.25.
19.5. If the governor's proposal passes that he's putting on the November ballot, how much would the sales tax be in Oakland?
That would be 9 3/4.
Thank you. I am in total support of the Alameda County Transportation Expenditure Plan. I'm in total support of continuing the half cents tax. I don't have enough information at this moment to say to add another half cent sales tax, so I'm not ready to do that at this point. So first time, there's only one little paragraph here, and there's not a whole lot of explanation, so I'm not ready to do that. So if you, if you could separate those, I'd appreciate that. I'm just concerned about how much of the sales tax could end up being. What?
Ms. Nadell, you're next.
The increased sales tax is what we need to pass all these items. So, I mean, to fund all these items, and I do support the increase. I don't support the governor's increased sales tax. I think the millionaire's tax is a much more effective and practical way of our dealing with the kinds of budgetary lacks that we have, and I think that we should be focusing on getting our citizens to agree with that, rather than an inefficient and approach to solving the state's budget problems with a sales tax. So I will move this item. I think it fits all of my categories as a sustainable development project. It will provide jobs, that's the social equity piece, it's environmentally correct, and it will help a lot of businesses along the corridors, and improving our roads certainly helps a lot of our businesses as well, who are on some of these streets like Jackson and you know, some of our streets that are really, really needing paving. So I'm happy to move the item.
Thank you, Ms. Nadell. Councilmember Shea.
I'd be happy to second it. I don't think this could come soon enough. I don't know if you noticed I missed rules this week because I went into a huge pothole and it actually broke the inside of my wheel well. So I too am a victim of our deteriorating infrastructure here in Oakland. Measure B represents the greatest potential influx of resources to improve our infrastructure that we have in front of us. I will I think I raised in committee, and again, I hope we will continue to look for ways to improve the performance, the cost-benefit analysis, and accountability and transparency as we go through the process, and you assured me that there are ample opportunities to do that. But also for the city of Oakland, I do want to say that we're never going to realize this potential unless we continue to improve our coordination. And again, we've done a good job, and Bruce, you and Iris are a big part of it, but we need to continue to improve our coordination between pedestrian, bicycle, paving, and transit investments. We have had instances in the past where a paving project, for example, has not incorporated things in the bike plan. And so we do need to just be mindful of continuing our commitment to complete streets and recognizing that Oakland is this wonderful place that is served well by AC Transit, ferry, and BART service, all here. So with that in mind, I'm excited to help campaign for this. This is definitely something that Oakland needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Schaaf. Mr. Delafonte.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to repeat what Councilmember Nidell and Councilmember Schaaf said. I think that it definitely, especially a little while we're talking about potholes and roads, and we are in a situation where we have to figure out different ways to fund our infrastructure, or rebuild infrastructure. I just want to make sure that, I don't know if Oakland is getting the share now, but one of the things we have to make sure is that Oakland gets a share of that tax. And I understand that everyone is concerned, but at the same time, I think that is, we know that there's not too many ways that we can fund some of our infrastructure now, so I'll hardly support it.
Thank you. I think I can attest to the doggedness of Bruce and Iris and Vic and Mike and making sure that those items that were important to this city was included into this. And I just want to again thank all of you, Art, Bruce, Iris, Mike, Vic, thank you. Really appreciate all of that. All right. On the questions, moved by Councilman Nadell, second by Councilmember Schaaf. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
I'm going to abstain.
All right.
So moved.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Thank you, Member.
I hope it goes as smooth as with the other cities. Next item.
And that takes us to item 12. Item 12 is the parking enforcement vehicle purchase. And I've shown no speakers on the item. Mr. Dexter already addressed the item.
Good evening, Mr. President of Council, council members, and staff. David Ferguson, Public Works. The item before you was brought to the Finance Committee last week, and at the meeting there was some follow-up that was required, and this supplemental report we hope addresses the questions that were raised at that meeting. The only thing that I'll add is that over the last 2 days, staff has had the opportunity, the parking enforcement technicians have had the opportunity to drive the Prius C, the Insight, and also the regular Prius. And they actually did a rating. We weren't able to put it in the report because the report was due Friday. Excuse me. But they rated the Prius C the highest out of the vehicles. So again, you know, if approved, we will follow the purchasing process.
All right. I just don't want us to make the same mistake that we did the last time we purchased vehicles outside of the city of Oakland. If we can purchase them within the city of Oakland, it makes sense for us to do that. And I think Scott Johnson is not here, but he certainly, Scott's over at home, but he certainly heard it from one Toyota of Oakland. I ran into some of the staff that was out there to test drive the cars, and I want you to know that they were doing their job.
And actually, one of them is here if you have any questions about the vehicles.
I saw him this morning when I was there.
I'll move the item.
It's been moved by Ms. Nadell. Is there a second? Second by Vice Mayor Brooks. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you, David. All right, next item.
We now return to item 10. Item 10 is the Cookie Homes contract increase. We'd like to indicate that there are a total of 43 speaker cards on the item.
Who's going to give the report to Member City Administrator?
Sure. I can start with some opening comments, and certainly Fred and Luana are here to offer additional comments or answer questions. Let me begin first with our recommendation and then I'll get into some observations relative to this issue. This report addresses several issues, and the recommendation is to increase the contract award to Hoping Homes to include funding to comply with the prevailing wage. With the approval of this, it will close the issue related to the retroactive contract award that the City Council approved in January 2011. I know that there's been much discussion and concern about the deferrals, and later in my presentation I'll go into why I delayed this action. The report also recommends a funding appropriation to begin the transition of operations related to the Rainbow Teen Center from Council District 6 to City Administration, and recommends the reassignment of CDBG funds allocated to occur to OPR, the Office of Parks and Rec, to fund center expenditures through June 2013. In our supplemental report, we did put forward a lower cost option for the City Council to consider. The administration continues to recommend that the center stay open and offers a temporary solution to enable operations at the center, but acknowledges that a decision regarding ongoing operations is one that the City Council will need to make during the mid-year budget cycle when it can compare it against other competing funding requests. This report also provides an inventory of operation issues that require administrative action to ensure compliance with policies and laws that have been identified since the Council last considered the retroactive construction award. In terms of presentation, this last point offers the best place to start. As we have stated in the report, while we have learned about some of the actions that took place leading to the acquisition and construction of the center, it is unfortunate that we cannot confirm that we have a detailed set of facts relative to the activities leading to the rehabilitation of the center. The City Administrator's Office review of this issue demonstrated that there are multiple and conflicting perspectives of what staff believed happened. Many individuals polled or have shared only partial information. There are conflicting sets of facts, some facts of which were just corrected within the last couple of hours, or so much time has passed that only partial recollections exist. We do know, however, that documents were prepared, signed, and processed in a manner that appears to have violated rules or policies, and in our attempt to review these matters, we have received conflicting stories about reasons for how these activities evolved. Our review has not focused on validating a particular story, rather on systemic management issues that need to be fixed to ensure that this does not happen again on the staff side. Our efforts to sort through these issues while completing a whole series of other significant tasks over the past months show that project spans about 20 to 30 employees and over about 5 years. From a management perspective, we have surfaced the patterns that require corrective action, and that has been the focus of our review. It has not been an absolute fact-finding review that would require significant more due diligence and certainly a higher investigative or auditor standard. We don't have the expertise to do that. In short, let me share with you the issues that we revealed from the systemic management side. It shows that several individuals failed to uphold their management and administrative responsibilities, while some individuals refused to participate or sign off on documents that they knew were in violation of city policy or procedure. It also shows that management controls in place did not serve the city well and need strengthening, while in other cases it was these management controls that blocked the efforts of certain individuals to proceed in violated policies and procedures. It also showed that some individuals did not know that the Vice Mayor was operating the teen center, while other individuals did know, and they did not surface these issues with the appropriate staff. Here's what else I'd like to share. I can share that while I did receive the request early on to bring this item to council to address the prevailing wage, I also heard from many individuals who raised flags with me about how to resolve these issues. Several factors caused for me to delay this action. The information shared with me was sufficient enough to ensure that I needed to feel comfortable with bringing the item forward before I would present it to council. I can also share that I talked with both city administrators, and one city administrator used the term suspicious to me as he was explaining the course of the actions that took place. I can also share that when I asked CETA staff in the November timeframe to prepare a report on the full range of issues, they did not. They presented me with a previously drafted report that did not meet my request, and Fred and I met with the staff person to express this concern. I can also share that during the course of this review, 2 staff members separately and privately brought to my attention that the Rainbow Teen Center file was missing and could not be located. It was with this that I raised concern and continued to delay bringing this item forward to council. That's the context that I have been trying to work on and trying to do with you to understand what is happening in this organization that allows for such activity and what are the management issues that I need to address to bring about corrective action. This review does not constitute an audit. It does not constitute an investigation. We do not have the investigative or audit standards to perform that. It does constitute a management review, as I stated. Let me go on to say that I want to acknowledge that the administration does recommend keeping the center open. We also have put forward the appropriate financial recommendations so that that can be done. As stated in the report, the facility is located in an area of Oakland that can greatly benefit from community services, and the facility is poised to offer services both citywide and within the district. With this in mind, we have already begun conversations with Vice Mayor Brooks about that transition and what it would look like, and those transition discussions have been productive. In closing, I wish that we could answer the many questions that I know that will come up tonight. I know that we do not have a full set of information. I've already stated the various reasons why we do not feel that we have a full set of complete information. It's unfortunate that this happened. Many people should have known and done better. My focus to uphold public trust by addressing these areas where staff should have done better. With the exception of the CDBG issue, for which my office put on hold, the other issues began or entirely took place while I was not the city administrator. I can't own the organizational activities or the environmental factors leading to these activities of the past. I do own the solutions going forward. And so with that, I've done with my presentation, and we certainly can take questions.
All right, thank you, Madam City Administrator. Madam Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Let me start by thanking the people who have come out tonight. There are many people who came out tonight in support. I've received many emails, phone calls, texts, you name it, from people offering their support. I think that it is real unfortunate that we got to this juncture, and so I'm going to walk you through some processes so that you can understand some things, because one of the things that I said during the budget process was that I was deeply concerned about the disconnect I felt that the city administrator had with the city. That perhaps because she was new and didn't know our city well, there felt like there was a disconnect. There was a panic kind of atmosphere that's created, and so a lot of stuff gets thrown out there. So tonight, for the very first time, I hear words like, I spoke to a city administrator and he said that there was something suspicious. Never heard those words before tonight. All of a sudden there's a file missing. Never heard that before tonight. And so it continues to create an environment of suspicion and distrust. Let me start by saying, I started this project with Rebuilding Together Oakland and Pulte Homes. The only person that I knew was the executive director of Rebuilding Together Oakland. Rebuilding Together Oakland is a part of a national program that does great work in this city. And so I want to say thank you to them and to Pulte Homes, because I feel like they're being dragged down in the mud as well. But Rebuilding Together Oakland does projects in people's private homes and on public facilities. And they do it with donated labor. And Pulte is one of their partners. And Pulte is a home developer by nature, but they wanted to do a good deed, and so they took on this project. And one of the first things that I did when I found out about this opportunity was I went to the then city manager, the city administrator, Dan Lindheim. And I said, Dan, we have an opportunity to do a project. The problem is we only have a limited amount of time in which we can do it in, 45 days. We built a beautiful facility from demolition to fully furnished in 45 days. And yes, I followed each and every rule that was put in. You think you know everything. Maybe you can read. You know, there are people who will not let a good fact get in their way. And so they've made up their mind how they're going to deal with things. And instead of reading things, and you know, if in the city of Oakland, we devoted more time to doing what was right, instead of trying to do little petty jabs and get back when we think we have an opportunity, we might be able to get some stuff done and some real stuff for the city. This teen center is an example of that. So the very first person that I spoke to about this project was the then city administrator, Dan Lindheim. I told him that we had 45 days in order to get this done, so I needed to pull together a team of people to see if that was possible. So Walter Cohen, staff from redevelopment, staff from the planning department, from building services, all came out and we walked that facility. And we talked about many things. I want to show you some photos of what this facility looked like before we started. This is the building that we purchased in 2007. Turn around there and show the audience as well. That's the building that we purchased in 2007. When we purchased that building, it was funny. In 2007, staff worked with me to get this building so we could build a teen center. Every other council member, with the exception of Mr. Reed, got money to build a teen center in their district. Mine is the only one that's up and running. I want to continue to show you what this looked like. So, I need to see what that is. This is the outside that had a children's play structure. This building used to be a Head Start program. Head Start moved out, they moved to Lions Creek Crossing, and the building sat blighted and vacant for 3 years. 3 years because we didn't have the money to fix the building, and we didn't have capital improvement money. So we needed to find ways to get this done. And clearly, since no other teen center is open, we need to be creative about how we pull together resources so that we have things for our kids. So Pulte Homes, in addition to doing the project, which was going to be the rehab of the interior of the building, that's what typically their programs have been. We talked with staff about whether or not we could apply for facade improvement money, because we have a facade improvement program in the city of Oakland. And initially staff told me that we could use facade improvement to change the front of the building, to change the landscaping on the building, to change the fencing on the building, the sidewalk that's in front of the building. And so in that picture that she just showed you, you see a facade that's being totally changed. And so I turn your attention to, it says number 2, or it's number 2 in the handouts that I asked to be distributed. And it's the email from Larry, to Larry Gallegos, which is dated March 8th, 2010. It says this is a follow-up to a conversation we had about the teen center. What was supposed to happen was we were supposed to get a grant with the NPI money. It wasn't supposed to be just a competitive bid. The facade money doesn't go out to competitive bid. And so what he came to me back with was that because it was a public building, we couldn't use the facade improvement money because that would require a hearing to make the blight findings for redevelopment. So he said instead we could use the NPI money that had already been allocated for the project. That money had already been allocated by the council. And he said, was it okay with me to move forward and use that money? I told him it was fine. So we proceed down a path thinking that we have a grant. Remember I told you we had 45 days to complete the project. We completed it in 45 days, thinking that we had a grant. It wasn't until much later when Pulte submitted their invoices that staff came back and told them that if the prime contractor gets paid on any portion of the contract, under the labor code, their subs could not be volunteers and they had to be paid prevailing wage. That wasn't a requirement when we started. So now you've changed the rules and you didn't tell anybody. And you changed the rules and you have new expectations. And that is why in January of 2011, a report was brought because the work was already done. It was an impossibility now, and we had received $204,000 worth of benefit from the work that Pulte had done. $204,000 for the then only $115,000 that Pulte was asking for. But staff, and if you follow the chain of emails, the dates are pretty clear about what happened when. It was a grant that turned into a contract. And under our contracting rules, if you can show that it's in the interest of the city, then it doesn't have to be competitively bid. And I talked to, that's in here too. I talked to the media at length about this, but that never got in the paper. The city administrator and all of the contracting staff knows that, but they never mentioned that. The silence has been deafening in terms of all of the facts coming out. So it was interesting to me that the city administrator would make the comment that she wasn't trying to, what was the comment? What was it? Oh, she wasn't validating a particular story. But you were keeping one going that fostered suspicion and distrust. And nothing could be further from the truth. I didn't get any money from this in any of my political campaigns or personally. I did not know the Pulte people before we started this contract. I didn't know any of the subcontractors that volunteered and did this work. And we got benefit for the money that we received, more than benefit. I want to continue to show you some of the pictures. Have we shown all of those? So I just want people to see. This is what the inside looked like. There were kids' toilets in there because, as I told you, it was a Head Start facility. That's good. And it's used to go. This is what the kitchen looked like in the facility. We had to totally gut the facility. They tore out everything in that building. They replumbed, rewired, reframed, re-sheetrocked, painted, put in floors, you name it, to make it usable. There's another that shows some of the work that was done. That shows you the shell that was there. Okay. Now let's go to the focus. They put in new insulation. Again, that's what the kitchen looked like. This was the exterior of the building. They painted the exterior, they put in some windows, they put in some railing, took out, go to the next slide, they took out the sidewalk, put in new paving, took out the asphalt, demolished the play structure that was there, put in landscaping, put in, go back to it first. Put in irrigation, redid the front of the building. This is what the building looks like today. Where's that one? No, go back to that. Show the one that, what it looked like originally. This is what a facade improvement project is supposed to do. They put in new fencing. That's the before. This is the after. They put in the wrought iron fence, they put in the sod, they put in the landscaping, they did the irrigation. As I mentioned, they did the railings, the trellis in the front and on the sides, painted the interior and exterior. This is the new sidewalk that they put in for us. Go ahead. Again, the outside. It used to be a play structure and asphalt. Everything there they put in, with the exception of those planting boxes that they put in after. Go ahead. This is the interior as you walk into the teen center. Next. In addition to the rehab work that they did, they donated a sub-zero refrigerator, the range and microwave there, the go ahead, the granite countertops, the cabinets. They donated a tremendous amount. I want you to take a look at those paper towel dispensers because I'll have something to say about them later, but keep going. The hood and the range. This is the horrible facility that I should be so ashamed of. This is the restroom. Another restroom. This is the video room where the kids go and learn video. When we designed this place, we wanted some place that wasn't just a drop-in facility for kids. We wanted a place where our kids could actually learn something and get some tangible skills so that when they went out into the world, they had exposure to some things. So we wanted them to have a nice place and a place that was state-of-the-art. So the equipment that they use is the kind of equipment that they use as they go out to a job. So they use Pro Tools, which is the industry standard for production. We wanted an environment where in the neighborhood where this is situated, it's sometimes harsh. And so we wanted a place where kids, could come in and feel comfortable and feel safe. And it was beautiful. And I think we captured that. Next one. Again, the video studio. This is the recording studio, and I know that there was yet another article in the newspaper that talked about the equipment for the recording studio. What they didn't say in the story was that all of the equipment that was on the list is right there in the studio. That's what's important. That's what's important. That I signed off on a sheet of paper that I wasn't looking at. I know nothing about recording equipment. I relied on people to help me. And many people helped get the appropriate things so that our kids could have some place to work. These are the other editing stations at the studio. This is the sound studio, and one of the major ADA issues was that the doors to the sound studio open and swing out in two different directions. It was because you need a thickness in doors, and every single thing that was done at this facility was done with inspections. We had inspectors there from start to finish, I didn't do this on my own. Staff walked with me in lockstep on every single thing that I did here. Go ahead. Another view of the recording studio. That's the sound studio. So that's it in terms of the pictures. I wanted to walk through some of the issues because it seemed like we did this in secret. We did not. I have talked about this teen center from this seat many times. I had talked to anybody and everybody about this teen center. When I was dealing with the city administrators, and with 3 city administrators, have been trying to get this issue resolved. I wasn't trying to be secret about this either. I asked Dan Linhan, I asked Lamont Ewell, and as soon as Deanna Santana got here, I raised the issue with her. I wasn't trying to keep a secret. If I was, this was the worst kept secret. You can go on the city website and Google or search Rainbow Teen Center, and 55 entries will come up. We've applied for state grants. We've done walkthroughs with state officials. In this teen center, we've held public meetings around this teen center with Parks and Recs. I cannot even fathom how anybody could say they didn't know about this facility or the fact that I was running it. So I'm going along because what you see here, if you read the packet, is a clear pattern. I asked a question, staff gave direction, and then we followed that direction. And so I'm going along thinking that everything's okay because I asked staff before I did anything. And I relied on them. And so what I ended with in my cover letter on this item to my colleagues was a question that said, if presented with the same set of facts, what would you have done differently? Because if, as a council person, I can't ask staff a question, receive an answer, and think that the information they provided is accurate, then the problem is bigger than Desley. And what they're trying to make is that this is a Desley problem. The problem is bigger than Desley if we can't ask a question. And if you read the packet, there's a clear, I provided the email, there's a question, there's a response, and then the implement. So I'm thinking everything's okay, and the first time I hear that there are any issues other than the repayment of Pulte is at the January 5th Rules Committee meeting, where I make an issue because I had been trying to work with the city administrator. She asked me twice to continue this matter. I did. And the last time I continued it, I asked her, I said, give me your word. And I did that on the record. I said, give me your word that there'll be no more continuances because I wanted this issue resolved. And she gave me her word. And then I went out of the country for the holidays and couldn't make it back to the first Rules Committee meeting. And at that meeting, she has the item continued, and not just to another date, but to the Deep Six list. It got continued to the pending no date certain list in my absence. And so I still didn't know about the supposed issues that were there that needed to be addressed because nobody has ever said anything to me. And I consistently asked staff, what do I do? What's the process? So I finally find out that there's issues. Supposedly, city staff doesn't have access to the building. Supposedly, the building doesn't meet the ADA, and I've put the city at risk somehow on these issues. And then nobody can verify the staffing at the facility. And then finally, the reallocation of CDBG money. So let's walk through those issues. So city access. City access. The city administrator made a great point that she personally went out to Rainbow Recreation Center and spoke with staff out there. And they told her that they did not have keys to the facility. I thought that was really odd because I've worked with the staff out there for an extended period of time, and the center director at Rainbow has had a key to the facility since it opened. And so I thought that was really strange. And even in absence of me saying anything to him, his boss asked him what was the conversation they had with the city administrator. And so there's a set of emails that you should have received a copy of that talks about the city administrator going out to the facility. And that she never asked about the teen center, she asked about Rainbow's program. That she never asked whether or not they had keys to the facility. They said that, and I didn't even ask them to say that. Right, it's email to the director of the Parks and Recs from one of her staff people that says totally contrary, and I had nothing. He didn't know anything about what was going on when he wrote this email. Nothing. In addition to that, there's emails from Public Works dated 2/11/2011. It's a string of emails between me and Darren Miner, where he asked me I asked him about who can duplicate some keys to me. Darren works with Public Works. And he asked me how many keys do I want him to make. Public Works knew about this facility. They had done things at this facility. There's another email from Renee Jackson, who works in Public Works. And he talks about, this is on February 11, 2011. I had keys, but I returned them to Wes Ramsey after our work was completed. Wes Ramsey works for Public Works. I was out there today, Wes was there, and he got there before I did, so clearly he had a set of keys. Staff has had keys to the facility, but it was an issue that was thrown out there and made to seem like they didn't have access. With respect to the hiring of staff at the facility, every single staff person that worked at DACA, it's called the Digital Arts and Culinary Academy, DACA for short. Every staff person that works out there had fingerprints done, background checks done, and TB tests done, as required with people who work with teens. Every single person. Every single person that works at DACA filled out a City of Oakland application. That application was turned into personnel for processing. We didn't make any secrets about where those people were going to work. And you can tell that from the email from Daryl Look. So I turned people's attention to the March 28, 2011 email from Daryl Look. He says, hi Jason. Jason works for Parks and Recs. He says, I'm reviewing some documents that were submitted through the Department of Human Resources today. Can you please confirm if any required background checks have been completed for the following applicants who are going through the hiring process? For Council Member PSC 14, those are the positions that they say are in the council office. So clearly personnel knew the positions that people were going to be hired in. It wasn't a secret. I understand they are going to work on the Rainbow Teen Center, which may have exposure to working with youth. as well as other possible council projects. He says this is a person in personnel saying that here's the classification they're being hired into. We know they aren't going to be working in the council office. We know they're going to be working in the teen center. He goes on to say that although these positions appear to be funded out of the councilperson's office, it's apparent that these employees will be working with and or around teens. And we want to make sure that the required background checks and protocol are followed. It wasn't a secret in March of 2011, but somehow nobody knew what I was doing. The background checks that everybody had to go through, there's another email in here that talks about who reviews those background checks. It's an email from Jason Mitchell. He works for Parks and Recs. Jason says, and this is an email to Daryl in personnel and some other people. It says Audrey is the director of Parks and Recreation, is the only person who reviews background reports. This is the same department that didn't know that we were running the teen center. How could that be? So it wasn't bad enough that the department director who's over Parks and Recs is the only person who reviews the background checks and has reviewed the background checks on each and every employee at the teen center. But their personnel requisitions leave there and go to personnel. And they were signed off on by the director of personnel. Nobody ever said anything was wrong. I'm assuming, because my first email said, what is the process? I'm assuming that I'm following the process. That was my first email. So then we have an email that shows that not only does the personnel director sign off on the personnel requisitions, but all of those requisitions go to the city administrator. And so my hires have all been signed off on by Dan Lindheim, Lamont Mule, and I believe that Deanna Santana signed off on some of my hires. So I'm at a loss. If these things go through the proper process and staff doesn't tell me anything different, how am I supposed to know? I'm not a human resource specialist. I don't know classifications. I don't even know what my classification is. So I certainly don't know what anybody else's is. And then they made a big deal about us not following the civil service process. Again, this wasn't done in secret. Why didn't anybody in any of those positions ever say, hey, you're supposed to do something different? There's not a single email that they brought forward that shows that anybody told me anything different. And the record is clear about what they told me. So I'm going along thinking that the only outstanding issue was the payment of pool fee. Then we have the issue of the 88 issues, which I think are really funny. Because remember that photo that I told you, look at those paper towel dispensers? At the at the January 5th Rules Committee meeting, the city administrator threw out that there were 88 issues at the building. But if you read her report, she didn't have inspectors go out until February 22nd. How did she know that? Right? So we just thrown stuff out, and we don't know whether or not it's true, but it's thrown out there. So what it turned out, in terms of the ADA issues, was that the toilet seat covers, the paper towel dispensers, the soap dispensers, oh yeah, Those weren't put in by Pulte. They were put in by Public Works. The doors to the recording studios were put in by Pulte, but they were done again with inspection. And what they failed to mention was that the only thing that triggered the new ADA look at was the raising of the dollar amount over $136,000. So that was just triggered by their report. All the inspections were done. Then we have the issue of the CDBG monies. And it made it seem like I had directed staff to reallocate CDBG monies. There was an allocation that was made through the Community Development Block Grant process that was approved by council. In that process, $60,000 was set aside. The staff to the center were all on my payroll. And just because people are on my payroll with respect to this center does not mean I run the day-to-day operations of the facility. I have two very competent and capable co-directors who run that center every day. And they will tell you, I am not there every day, I'm not talking to them every day. They run that center. I respect their expertise and professionalism. If they have a problem, they'll call me and I help them resolve the problem. That's it. I provided funding. And I did that because at the time that this facility was built, I told you that it sat for 3 years because we didn't have any money to do anything. Then Pulte did the work. That work was finished not in May of 2010. And one of the biggest faults in this staff report is that the city administrator never came and asked me or asked staff about just basic things that we could have answered if somebody had come and had a conversation with us. We could have done away with a lot of the misinformation if they had just come and talked to us, but that didn't happen. There's the inference in the report that we allowed people to work with teens before their background checks were completed. Nothing could be further from the truth. People prepared for the courses that they were going to teach and didn't interact with the teens until their background checks were done. But on the CDBG issue, so in this October 24th, I write an email to the Director of Housing. Hey, Michelle, wanted to follow up on our brief conversation with you about CDBG for my Thanksgiving event and then for the Teen Center allocation. It says there's approximately $60,000 for the Teen Center. I wanted to see if there was a way to transfer those dollars to my office salary specifically for the Teen Center staff. Currently, they are being paid out of my office budget, and I would like to transfer them off. Please let me know. She writes back on November the 3rd. In regards to the funds for the Teen Center, due to the 17% reduction of all projects funded out of CDBG this year, the $60,000 will only be $49,800. If you could provide an or project number, we can transfer these funds into the project to cover the salaries of the staff. I asked a question. Staff gave direction. If you give us these numbers, we can transfer the money to that fund. So you see the follow-up emails from my staff giving them the org numbers. We go along thinking everything's fine. I never hear anything from the city administrator. I heard from a reporter that there was an issue with the CDBG funding. Didn't hear a word from the city administrator's office. But the press knew. I think that it is really unfortunate that we've gotten to the situation. And this isn't about me. People want to make it about me. The press wants to make it about me. Certain of my colleagues want to make it about me. This is about a management issue. This is about every single thing that I did. I asked for direction. So again, I would put to my colleagues, what would you do under the exact same circumstances? I want to hear that, and you should ask them to tell that as well. Because every process was followed that was told to me. We built a beautiful center for kids, and somehow that has gotten lost. The city more than got its value. You saw what this place looked like when this project started and what it looks like today. It is absolutely gorgeous. There is no way that we would have gotten that value for $150,000. We were able to waive the competitive bid process when we had to move to a contract. We do that every single day. With respect to the staffing, part-time employees are exempt from the civil service project process, but that doesn't get put out there on Front Street either, because we have to make it seem like Desley didn't follow the process. I have no shame in what was done here. It's a beautiful facility. Our kids deserve it. And so the only thing that I can do is that somehow we're saying that kids in East Oakland aren't deserving of what we've got here. There wasn't anything suspicious or underhanded or devious that was done. We were very clear with everybody what we were doing here. If at any opportunity they told us we were supposed to do something else, we would have done that. They didn't. Ask them where that record is. Ask them where that record is. I'll listen to the speaker.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, would you please call the speakers?
We have a total of 43 speakers cards. I'll be calling them in groups. I'm just going to begin with the first few names, and I'll continue as we move through the meeting. Once your name is called, please approach the podium in the groupings that I'm calling and state your name for the record. Tony Cook, Cheryl Moore, Judy Cox, Sal Gomez, Charles Childs, Andrea President, Clayton Richardson, David Unger, Roshonda Moore, Scott Marsh, Lawrence Jackson, Kawana Hampton, Yvonne Smith, and is that Ms. Sharnae Smith Franklin, if I said that correctly, hopefully? And Carolyn Farms. That's just the first grouping. There are more names to be called.
Good afternoon, members of the City Council, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair. Let me just begin by saying, originally I was very frustrated as to what I was going to say. And I kind of get rid of the anger that between what I consider to be yellow journalism of the East Bay Express, the Chronicle, and the Tribune. Once I got rid of the anger, I began to ask some questions. How is it that these three publications had information on a Saturday that didn't come out as an attachment until 2 days later? So I assumed that the report was leaked. What saddened me was politics was such that if there was a leaked report and a journalistic staff that may not get paid well because people don't read print media anymore, that what you did was you castigated a name. Politics led to the castigation of a name who has done nothing but good in District 6. This is not the first time the councilperson has partnered with a nonprofit to bring something uplifting to our children. One only has to go look at the playing stuff, the stuff that at Aurora. When she brought concerts to the hood, she sold the money. Now that she brings beauty, culinary arts, and digital media, which you have to pay, I happen to know, because my granddaughter goes to a school that costs lots of money. And there are lots of rich folks, that when poor kids get there, then Desiree is a crook. To the point where 2 of the media says, and the FBI has been asked to come. Shame on any of you all.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Sal Gomez. I've been a resident here for 61 years. Mr. President Larry, Senior City Council. I'm here to show support for Councilmember Desi Brooks. She is a very professional and a straight-up person. She is for the people and the community. When you work or deal with Councilmember Brooks, you better have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed. She has dedicated and committed to the improvement, the quality of life for the residents of her district and the city of Oakland. As a friend, she has shown to be an honest and caring person, and you can see the support she has. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Judy Cox. I'm ceding my time to Joe Trapp.
Good evening, Council. My name is Charles Childs, I live in District 6. I've chaired our CDBG board for the last 6 years. The thing that upsets me with this is that we all know that our children need as many activities as we can get them. There seems to be something wrong when there's a movement made in 6 and 7 that benefits the kids, we find problems. You guys sitting there, you know what the room is in the Oakland? In the central Oakland where the teen center is? They're up to it again. Anything that happens good for our children, they try to find something wrong with it. They, from my understanding, means this council. This has gone on for years and years and years. Desiree has done more for District 6 in the 30 years that I've been there, plus years, than any member we've had before. As Tony told you before, how the FBI gets involved in this, it's all the, I got you now. And that is the way this community is perceiving this. It's time to look at the administrative errors that this council has been known for, or the city administrative system has been known for. Correct that. Once you get that corrected, you will not have these type of problems.
Good afternoon. My name is Kawana Hampton. My daughter, Denisha Turner, is an 8th grader, and she's currently a participant in the Digital Arts and Culinary Academy. Initially, when I came here, I was not aware of all of the issues that are going on around, the center. It's a pleasure to meet Desley Brooks in person. Somebody cares. That's all I can say is that when you go to this center, you know that somebody cares about the community and as well as the children. I initially came here just to support DACA, but now I feel like I'm standing here as actually a soldier, and that DACA is something that needs to be fought for. So that's what I'm standing here as now, as a soldier to fight for it, because it is a positive impact in the community. Not only is it a positive influence on the teams, it's also a positive influence on me and my family as well. The staff is very professional, very welcoming, and this basically feels like a second home. And I'll just also say that I've been living in East Oakland for about 10 years, and before I never even paid attention to the center. I didn't see it. It was kind of like an eyesore in the community. So now it's a beautiful place, and it needs to remain. And keep doing what it's doing.
Hello, my name is Clay Tobin Richardson. I'm one of the co-directors at DACA. Let me start by saying first, I grew up here in Oakland. I grew up in East Oakland, Sobrani Park. And as a kid, I went to a great many programs that some were in Oakland, some were in Berkeley. And were not for a lot of those programs, I would not have done many of the things that I've been able to do in my life as a musician and as a producer and singer. When I was first told of this center, I won't lie to you, when I was told of the address, you know, I was so discouraged with Oakland and the things that have been going on in Oakland. I was like, you gotta be kidding. And then when I went to the center and saw the center and saw that someone actually in this city is trying to do something positive, the type of positive things that I, as a child, experienced. Before I left out the place, I said, I'm there, I'm doing this. And I came in initially as an instructor and became a co-director. And this program is very, very important to the kids of Oakland. This is something that's given them self-esteem, giving them an opportunity to see beyond their backyard, giving them an opportunity to see and do things that otherwise they would not have an opportunity to do. And I really hope that you all think about that and all the things that you have to vote about and all that, and keep in mind, beyond all this finger pointing and whatever political mess that we have to deal with, I would hope that you keep in mind the children first, because that should be our first concern above everything else. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andrea, President.
You can pull the mic.
Oh, thank you. I am the other co-director at the center, and for me, I just know going there every day is like breath of fresh air. You know, I know that when a kid walks in, it's like, you know, something new that they're going to discover, and it's just, I can't wait to see them just interacting with one another. And it's more than just teachers showing them how to play a chord on the piano or to flip a chicken over, you know, or chef taught us how to make chickens 1,000 ways in the beginning. But it's a sense of family, a sense of ownership in that place. And when you walk in, it's not like an institution. It's like, wow, this looks like a house. And we put that in these kids like, hey, this is your home away from home. And we teach them things like that. It's like, you know, if you eat something, wash the dishes. You know, take out the trash. Make sure you clean up after yourself, because sometimes these kids don't get that at home. And so we make sure we have that there. And we just want to keep it that way. Keep that sense of home, friendship, and love. And that's what we give to these kids at this facility, because we really put ourselves into them. You know, and all of our instructors have backgrounds. I'm a person that grew up on the streets. I was homeless, you know, came from an abusive father. And so we can really relate with these kids. And we're just not some people that push paper. So just let it be and let it grow. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Norris Jackson. I'm the chef instructor at DACA. I bring about 30 years of teaching and cooking experience to the DACA Academy. Before we even get started, one of the things we try and instill in the students, other than cooking, are some life skills. How to make friends, how to talk, how to express yourself. All these things are very important. Some of these students don't have this chance in their homes, so when they come to see us, they get to express themselves. We at DACA have been working very hard, almost a year, to keep things up and running. We offer film, video, culinary, urban gardening. It's a neat combination of works, but all this works very well. And all we're asking is that we have an opportunity to continue for another year as we've reached the March month, as almost being in a service for a year. We just thank you for your consideration. Thank you very much.
I'll continue calling names. Kenny Johnson, Yolanda Perez, Tanisha Turner, Archie Smith, Angel Fountain, Tiara King, Hope Johnson, Jasmine Black, Saul Perez, Elizabeth Perez, Laralyn Ford, Jasmine Johnson, I think I repeated that name, Jean Hazard, Mary Elizabeth Jeffrey, Reginald Tolan, Fred Mackey, Ken Houston, John Hawkins, Ron Mohammed, and I'll continue calling names after that.
Please step to the mic. You can pull it down.
Hi, my name is Tiara King. Been at DACA since the summer started. They started the program after they rebuilt it, furnished it, got everything in there, and I really enjoy how they made it really